Good morning. That's not going to cut it. I know we've been sitting for a while, and I know that we have some more to do in terms of our time together. But I do want to encourage you to bring the type of energy that it's going to take to move the needle on the things that we're talking about over these next couple days. So a somber good morning is insufficient. Good morning, everyone. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. I feel a little bit confined behind the desk. I'm going to move around if that's okay. I apologize to the cameraman. Now, I want to begin by just saying I'll share a little bit of my journey with you, and then I'll share some life experiences that I've had that have shaped my vision or my perspective on life. Is that fair? That being said, before we begin, I need to make sure everybody's ready. Everyone do me a favor, put your hand in your lap. Real quick, hands in your lap. Now, when I say the word clap, as fast as you can, I want you to clap and put your hands back in your lap. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes. Clap. That's not good enough. Clap. 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 Good job, good job. All right, so my name's Orlando Bowen. I was born in Montego Bay, Jamaica. Came to Canada when I was 2.5 years old. Grew up in public housing in the Jane and Wilson area, and I was there until middle school. Middle school, moved out to Brampton. Went to Brampton Centennial Secondary School, got a football scholarship to go to school down in Illinois, Northern Illinois University. At Northern Illinois, I played hard and I studied hard. I graduated a couple of times. I did a bachelor's degree in marketing and then a master's degree in the management of information technology. Let me take you back a little bit, though, to my interactions in terms of why I'm so passionate and committed to serving in the various roles that I'm privileged to serve in. Shortly after we came to Canada as immigrants, it was clear that we didn't have much in terms of material things, right? But in that, we had a lot of love, and we had people around us that showed that they cared about us and those types of things. But I always felt a responsibility to give back to the country that gave me this gift. The country that gave me this gift of opportunity. Nothing guaranteed, but opportunity. And every time that we would take a trip back home to Jamaica and I would have an opportunity to interact with some of my cousins and other family members who didn't have that opportunity, it reminded me of the significance of the efforts that I needed to undertake to make sure that that opportunity wasn't wasted. So I've had these, very powerful experiences or aha moments where in the midst of a conversation with someone, I realized how important it is for us to do all that we can to serve. So I did a bachelor's, then I did a master's degree in IT. I was working in IT as a consultant, went to Jamaica for my friend's wedding, and was feeling really good about life, really passionate. I was making really good money. I had a condo overlooking the lake. I was thinking, I've made it. This is it. And I remember walking from the hotel, from a restaurant, going back to the hotel, and a little boy, probably about 6 or 7 years old, that had jeans that were cut into shorts and an undershirt on, came up to me and he said, "Excuse me, could you spare a couple dollars so I could get a piece of bread?" And I remember looking at this young man thinking, that's it? That's all you need? And I remember, taking the young man to get something to eat and thinking I was doing a good job. And then I thought, how is he going to eat tomorrow? And the day after that, when I go back home to my condo, to my nice job, what's he going to do then? And this feeling, this sense of we have to do something for the next generation and for generations to come really started to build in me. I went back and I started recruiting people in our company to put together a mentorship program. So as we started doing that, I got a call from the Toronto Argonauts. And they invited me back to Canada to try out for the football team. Now, for me, coming back to Canada to play wasn't even about the game. It was about having a platform from which we could engage more people. That's what it was all about. So I came back and I immediately got involved in service. I was doing work with Covenant House, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, Sick Kids Hospital. I was doing some racial sensitivity work with the police force. I was going into schools leading anti-bullying programs, doing work with Crime Stoppers, doing everything that I could to serve and to give back. And so, as I was doing that and I continued being really passionate about that, the years started going by, and I remember going into my 5th season as a professional athlete, and I continued to do those things that I was committed to in the community, and I had signed a contract with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And we decided, a couple of my teammates and I were going to go out and celebrate. So I remember we were going to carpool and then go downtown and celebrate. I got to the carpool location first, and as I was waiting for my friends to come, I saw 2 guys walking towards me. So I'm standing outside of my vehicle. I see 2 guys walking towards me. One guy says, "Hey, what you got? Got any drugs?" And I remember looking at the 2 gentlemen, and I'm thinking, why? Why is that the first question you're asking? Then I thought, of all the things that I've sacrificed to serve and to give back, and then I thought, these guys would have no idea. Just answer the question. So I looked at them and I said, "Nope, I don't." I went back to my phone call, but one of the guys stopped at the rear of my vehicle. The other guy kept walking. The guy that stopped says, "Are you sure? You sure you don't have anything?" And I looked at him and I was about to answer, but then I remembered that there were 2 gentlemen. So I looked to see where the other one was, and he was standing in my blind spot. I stepped back so I could see both guys, and I said, "What's going on?" Well, to make a long story short, they were both armed with pistols. And they grabbed me, threw me down, and they started to beat me. And they beat me until the skin on my head split. And I was laying face down on the pavement, knowing that my life was about to end. And the things that came to me in that moment was I hadn't given enough. I was serving, but I hadn't served enough. I still had more that I could have done, that I should have done. And here I was, face down on the pavement, and my life is about to leave me, and that's what came to mind. I hadn't contributed all that I could to make Canada all that it could be through my contribution. And it was about to be over. And all I could think was, God, not like this. I got too much in me to give, not like this. Pran, could you pull up that second image for me, please? So just with respect to the journey, the assault ended my football career. I wasn't able to pass my physical testing. I couldn't pass my physicals. I had a hard time even walking and balancing, right? So the bigger challenge to the assault was that the assault happened at the hands of 2 corrupt undercover police officers. And when they realized that I was a spokesperson for their force, and when they realized that I would go into schools with their officers, and when they realized that I trained their officers, a huge cover-up began. I was taken to jail. I wasn't allowed to speak to anyone. The officers went back to the scene. They planted drugs at the scene, and then in the report said, when they came to arrest me for the drugs that they saw me throw on the ground, I started to fight them. And that's the reason why my face looked the way it did. I'll tell you the most transformative moment for me. And I'll make a long story short. So I was in the jail cell, and as I'm there, I saw a young lady walking past who was in a racial sensitivity training session that I had delivered 3 weeks before the assault. And she looked in and she said, "Oh my God, you're Orlando. You're the guy that did our training. I'll be right back." And she disappeared around the corner. I heard her saying, "Do you know who that is? That's Orlando. He did our training." She never came back. 2 other gentlemen walked by, and they stopped and they looked in and they said, "You don't look well." I said, "I don't feel well." They said, "Yeah, your blood got on a couple of our guys. Do you have any diseases that we need to test our guys for?" And I thought, dear God, that's what you're going to ask? I said, "No," and they walked. Hours passed, and I was wondering, okay, when do I get to go home, right? And so I asked the gentleman that was walking past, "When do I get to go home?" He looked at me and he said, "Home? You're not going home. You have a bail hearing." And then he told me that I was being charged with assaulting a police officer, 2 counts, and possession of a controlled substance. I'll fast forward a little bit to being at the hospital, and this being the transformative moment. You could go back to the other picture. So I'm at the hospital, and the nurse comes in, and she looks at me, and she says, "What happened to you?" And I looked at my wife, and I said, "She's not going to believe this." And I looked at the nurse, and I said, "I got jumped." And she said, "By who? The police?" And I said, "Why would you say that?" And she said, "Because I see it all the time. but it usually happens to newcomers, teenagers, or people who don't have a good command of the English language. You don't really fit the bill. And in that moment, I understood that this whole journey wasn't about me. It was about giving a voice to the voiceless, or those who felt like they didn't have a voice, or giving a reason for people to believe, even though the odds that were stacked against them would maybe cause some people around them to say, don't believe. And I realized that I had a role to play, and we had a role and a responsibility to play in terms of building into the Canada that I know I came to, that our family knows that we came to. So once again, making a long story short, 6 weeks before we got the verdict, before we were scheduled to receive the verdict, I got a call from the Toronto Star. And the reporter on the other end says, Orlando, you may find this interesting, but you know the arresting officer in your case, he was himself arrested by the RCMP for trafficking cocaine. They found 17 kilos of cocaine at his house. So all of a sudden, the people that were trying to convict me, the Crown attorney calls and says, hey, Orlando, buddy, listen, we don't think you should have to go through all this. Why don't you just drop the charges? Everyone could go home and be happy. And I said, oh, you mean like make a deal? And she said, yeah. And I said, no. This isn't about making a deal. This is about principle. I'd rather be wrongfully convicted versus striking a deal on that premise. And she said, fine, you're going down. This was your chance. And she hung up the phone. They took us to court. They asked the judge to allow them to drop the charge. The judge said no. He said, further to that, I find Mr. Bowen not guilty. These are my reasons why. So I was acquitted. We then filed a civil lawsuit. It settled out of court 5.5 years later. It was a journey. Right now, when we engage people, we talk about the reason to believe. Despite the challenges that we'll face, and people will come up to me and say, I'm so sorry for what you've been through. And I say, don't be sorry. Because I may have taken for granted opportunities to connect with amazing people like Emily. I may have taken for granted an opportunity to have the privilege of being with these distinguished presenters, these distinguished panelists, and the folks in this room. I may have taken it for granted, but I will not. I'm committed to doing everything that I can with every breath in my body. I want you to know that I breathe for every single one of you in this room, and your children, and your children's children. That's why I breathe. And I'm here because I'm committed to helping anyone who's willing understand that we have a responsibility to create the Canada that we know that we can be. And I'm not going to wait for anyone else to say, hey, you know, someone else should be doing this or someone else should be doing that. I'm saying, here I am. I'm part of a team. Send me. I'm a small cog in the giant wheel of change that needs to happen in order for us to be all that we can be. And with every fiber of my being, I'm committed to doing all that I can. One Voice, One Team is a youth leadership charity that builds hope, inspiration, and creates connections for young people to find their passion and to use their passion to serve. That's what it's all about. And when I speak corporately, it's about the same thing. We talk about forgiveness, letting go so that we could get on with the work. I wrote a letter to the gentleman that I was assaulted by. I'll share a little bit of it with you, and then I'll take my seat. To my brothers, Sheldon and Grant, life is a game, and we could win this thing. I come to you humbled and broken, yet with a calming peace. I apologize for blaming you for my feelings of anger, disappointment, and malintent towards you, towards life, and towards the system during this ordeal. This may sound very strange, but in this game of life, we're on the same team. And I want to courageously express the fact that I'm thankful, grateful, and forever in debt to you for this experience because it's changed my life. It's made me a better father and a better husband, a better human being, someone who could fully appreciate what it means to feel broken and alone. I'm praying for you for strength to deal with your pain. Please know that you're forgiven 100% and loved 99%. I'm still working on that last 1%. But through this experience, we have an opportunity to change perspectives, and I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate that. So please know that there's someone out there that loves you, cares about you, and wants the best for you and your families. I want you to know that I play this game of life for you. Thank you.